All right, so it has been a little bit since I've done a top whatever number list, and I was browsing just through old shit, and I remember, well, obviously I remembered this before looking at it, but early on in the channel, maybe like a few months in, me and my buddy Al Lucard did a top 10 stream of our favorite horror scores and our favorite top 10 final girls. So I was watching it just to see, after a year almost of doing this and rewatching so many movies, if this would change for me and how big of a drastic change to this top 10 list of what I think is the greatest horror scores in films. It changed a decent amount. Like there were a few that went up from honorable mentions to like the top 5 or like just under the top 5. So this is very interesting to re-go through this because there are maybe 3 or 4 scores from these horror films that really resonated with me and hit with me much more than they ever have since a rewatch of them for covering them for the channel. So there's a decent amount of them that were not on my top 10 list a year ago and now are in what I think are the greatest scores in film, like especially the top 5. The top 5 best in film in general for me. The second lower half, horror specifically, but a few honorable mentions. Let's talk about them. All right, so I'll keep the honorable mentions short, but Harry Manfredini's score for the original Friday the 13th, and pretty much every score that he's done, you could pretty much throw in here. Harry Manfredini is just absolutely exquisite with the music that he composes, and whether it's a score for all of the Fridays except for, I think he didn't do Manhattan or Jason Goes to Hell. One of those. I think he did Jason Goes to Hell and it wasn't Manhattan. One of those. But, or the House movies, House and House 2, like, he's just phenomenal. So, can't not mention Harry Manfredini. Cat o' Nine Tails by Dario Argento, the music by Ennio Morricone, which he's going to be on this list a few times. Like, absolutely. He's one of the greatest composers of all time. But the theme, the main theme to Cat o' Nine Tails is one of my favorite Argento compositions, like in any of his films. Just the awesome acoustic guitar, and then the flute that comes in over it, and it sets the mood so perfectly for that movie. And it's such an underrated Argento film, Cat o' Nine Tails. So that one, right after that, we got another Argento film with a Goblin score to Deep Red or Profondo Rosso. Phenomenal. Like their Goblin, you should be no stranger to Goblin if you're an Italian horror fan or just a big horror fan. But man, Goblin, the scores that they made for Argento and for just anything that they did from like the 70s through like the 90s, so good. And the Deep Red theme is just iconic and it's so fitting for the movie. So Deep Red by Argento. The Gremlins theme song, like the main score theme from Gremlins, absolutely phenomenal. Wendy Carlos's score from The Shining, amazing. I mean, Wendy Carlos, I love all her stuff. She's very synthesizer heavy. The opening to A Clockwork Orange, the score, is one of my favorite scores of the film. I don't consider it a horror film, that's why it's not on here, but mentioning Wendy Carlos with The Shining links it to that movie too. So, awesome stuff. Jaws, I'm not a big Jaws fan. Some of you know that. I think it's a classic film. I just don't watch it often and it doesn't really do much for me. But you can't deny how iconic the score is for Jaws. And so simplistic. It just E to F over and over again. And it just works so well for a shark wading through the waters, ready to strike. Just perfect. And the final honorable mention. Now, this was one that was on my list a year ago. High up, actually. Like, I don't think the top 5, maybe 6, 7, something like that. But The Omen, excellent score. The Omen is such an underrated movie, I feel too. When you hear people talk about greatest horror films, and you hear The Exorcist, you're Psycho, and Halloween, and The Thing, and all down the line, you don't hear The Omen brought up nearly as much as it should. It's a masterpiece of a film, and the score just goes so perfectly with it. It just sounds like satanic rituals are happening all around you. When the choirs kick in, the gothic sound, it fits perfectly. What a great soundtrack. But unfortunately, it got kicked off the list. So let's jump into my top 10. All right, number 10. This one dropped a decent amount, and I adore it. Phantasm from Don Coscarelli. Forget who does the score, but God, the Phantasm theme is so fantastic. It fits perfectly with the surreal, dreamlike feeling that we have throughout the whole series, and it's just perfect for the films that it's in the Phantasm franchise. So, number 10, Phantasm. All right, now here I cheated the same way I cheated a year ago, so I'm just a fucking cheater. You should know this by now. With number 9, I can't pick between any of the Gates of Hell trilogy by Lucio Fulci. The Beyond score is masterful. So is City of the Living Dead, and so is House by the Cemetery. We have Fabio Frizzi doing the first two. I always blank and forget who did House by the Cemetery, but excellent as well. So number 9 is just all 3 Gates of Hell trilogy movies: The Beyond, City of the Living Dead, and House by the Cemetery by Lucio Fulci. I can't pick, so fuck you. Number 8 is George A. Romero's Day of the Dead. What a great score, man. I mean, I could see people not liking in the finale of this movie. There's a very 80s guitar solo that just comes out of nowhere. And I could see it not working for people. It is out of place. It is. But just wiping that away, just everything else though, just it feels like you're on a tropical island, like with the like marimba almost like sounds like it sounds fucking perfect, and it fits so well that they end up fleeing to an island at the end. Like, it has a tropical feel to it a little bit, the Day of the Dead theme. But I fucking love it, man. It's my second favorite zombie film of all time. Video on my favorite zombie film of all time, probably later tonight, if not tomorrow. So, yeah. So, number 7, Day of the Dead. And number 8. That's going to happen. Number 7. Now, these next two are ones that were not on the list. One is a movie that I just saw recently, ashamedly. Is that a word? Fuck it. It is now. And number 7 is Colin Towns' score for The Haunting of Julia, or Full Circle in the UK from '77. This movie's a masterpiece. I just did a podcast episode on it. I just did a cover of the theme. If you haven't heard the theme, guess what? I just did a cover of it. You get to hear a little bit right now. It is so fucking hauntingly beautiful. It works with this movie so well. It's almost on the level of like Halloween and Psycho for me, with how effective this music is at setting the mood and keeping the mood and the feeling of dread throughout this whole movie. It is absolutely phenomenal. So, number 7, Colin Towns' score for The Haunting of Julia. New one to the list. I don't see it going anywhere but up in the future for me. Like, absolutely. Number 6. Now, this one went from not even an honorable mention on my stream with Al, and Al, if you ever see this, we got to do something soon, man. I feel like it's been forever since we did any type of stuff together, and I miss you, so we got to do that. So I'll message you. But Cannibal Holocaust. Now, Al brought this up on the stream, and I was going to make it an honorable mention, and I totally forgot. But it went from honorable mention to those of you that have been following for a bit. I did like 4 covers of this theme song over the last year or so since I rewatched it and did a video for it. And ever since then, this score is one of the gorgeous, most beautiful themes and compositions in a film, not horror, in a film ever. It is so perfect, and it contrasts so goddamn well with the just insane depravity and stuff that we see in this movie, Cannibal Holocaust. But the theme, people who ignore this movie just for the animal stuff or just how, controversial it is and the reputation it has, take a listen to the score, man. It's so good. And you're in luck if you haven't heard it, because I did a score. Did I mention I did like 4 of them? Here's one right now. You could listen a little bit. Just, it's so simple. It's just a D, C, G, C to D progression over and over again with just a beautiful melody to it. And then the key change at the end just amplifies it. And I love it so much. Cannibal Holocaust, number 6. Number 5. This again, not from here on, it's just film in general. It's not even just a horror film. Is Candyman. The main score, it's always been You Helen by Philip Glass. I mean, the whole score to this film, but in particularly that composition, so gorgeous. And another hauntingly beautiful theme, just beautiful piano, man. It sounds so good. And I was just rewatching, I did a video on the first few episodes of American Horror Story Asylum, and they use this composition at the end of the season, which when I saw that season when it was premiering, I loved hearing that so much. But this is another one that's gone so high up. And in case you never heard it, I did a few covers of that too. That shit's playing right now. You should hear it. If you don't, then I fucked up somehow. Number 4 is Goblin. Again, their score for Argento Suspiria. Is it my favorite Argento score? No. But I think it's his best. And I think there's the score for Suspiria is so iconic at this point that just the few opening notes, people know what it is, or they've heard it at least, even if they're not Italian horror fans. It's just so iconic, almost on the same level of Halloween. That main score is just so perfect, and it's mostly just the main score. There is other music, like that conga, jungle, tribal type stuff, which is phenomenal too. But the main score, absolutely brilliant. So number 4, Suspiria by Goblin for Argento. Number 3 is the score to Psycho from 1960. I mean, this is just iconic. There's no reason to even really talk about it. It's absolutely brilliant, and nobody doesn't know that theme. Same for the next 2, the top 2. Number 2, Exorcist, Mike Oldfield's Tubular Bells theme. Again, everyone knows this theme. There's not anybody who doesn't know this, even if they've never seen The Exorcist for some reason. It works amazingly. And this is one score that wasn't even made for the film. Like, he was like a avant-garde, progressive rock, new age type artist who had this Tubular Bells piece that was like a half-hour long. And they ended up using that, the main theme, for The Exorcist. And what a brilliant decision, man. And number 1, this should be no surprise for anybody, John Carpenter's Halloween. It's the greatest score in a film ever. Every piece of this score, the main theme, Laurie's theme, the Myers house theme, and the Chase theme, like everything is used, and it's so effective. And it's used, each theme is used at the perfect moments. There's nothing else you can say about the Halloween score. It is the greatest score ever put to film for me. So, top 10, recap. Number 10, Phantasm. Number 9, the whole 3 Gates of Hell trilogy by Fulci. Number 8, Day of the Dead by Romero. Number 7, The Haunting of Julia. Number 6, Cannibal Holocaust. Number 5, Candyman. Number 4, Suspiria. Number 3, Psycho. 2, The Exorcist. And number 1, Carpenter's Halloween. Perfect, short, brilliant. Awesome time revisiting this list because it definitely, like I said, changed a decent amount. So this was fun to revisit. Alright guys, I'll talk to you soon. I'll have something out later.